It was 2 a.m. when I first noticed the faint creak of the front door. At first, I thought it might be the wind, or maybe one of the kids moving around in their sleep. But then I saw her, Claire, sneaking down the hall, coat in hand, keys jingling softly. My heart sank instantly, an instinctive dread settling in my chest. Something wasn't right. I stepped out of the bedroom quietly, careful not to make a sound, and confronted her just as she reached the door. "Claire," I said, voice low but firm. She froze, eyes wide for a second, and then narrowed into a glare that could cut through steel. "You don't understand," she spat, her voice sharp, defensive, almost rehearsed. I stood there, processing the moment. I did understand, though. I had noticed the late-night texts, the whispered phone calls she hid behind her laughter, the excuses for leaving the house when there was no reason. It had been subtle at first, little signs I tried to ignore, hoping my paranoia was misplaced. But tonight, the truth was undeniable. Claire tried to brush past me, her coat flaring slightly as she attempted to slip outside. "Let me go," she said, voice rising, trembling with a mix of fear and anger. I didn't move. "No," I said evenly. "You're going to explain." She glared at me, a mix of frustration and panic flashing across her face. "You don't understand," she repeated, almost pleading, almost threatening. But I did understand. I had been piecing it together for months. The suspicious outings, the sudden preoccupation with her phone. The nights she claimed were spent working but left me with a hollow, anxious silence. I had noticed it all. I held my ground. "I think I understand perfectly," I said calmly, letting the words hang in the air. "You're sneaking out in the middle of the night. You've been lying. And I need to know why." Her gaze faltered for a brief second, a crack in the armor she had built around herself. The tension between us was suffocating, the silence almost unbearable. I could see the internal struggle on her face, the instinct to deflect, to manipulate, to hide behind anger. But it was too late. The truth had already surfaced, and I wasn't going to let her twist it into anything else. That night, the confrontation was just the beginning. It wasn't about yelling or crying. It was about clarity, about understanding what had been happening behind my back. And as I watched her shift uncomfortably in the dim light, I realized this was a moment that would change everything between us. Claire hesitated, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, her glare faltering as the weight of my calm resolve pressed down on her. I had learned early in our marriage that anger would never reveal the truth. Only patience and observation could. "Talk to me," I said evenly. "Explain what's going on. Don't lie. Don't hide." For a moment, she was silent, as if trying to calculate the perfect lie. The story that would make me believe her while keeping her freedom intact. But the trembling in her hands, the way her eyes darted to the street outside, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It wasn't an innocent outing. This had been going on long enough to leave a trail of subtle signs that I had missed, or refused to see. I remembered the nights she came home later than usual, claiming overtime or meetings that didn't exist. I recalled the messages she quickly deleted, the calls she whispered into, the little excuses that always seemed plausible until stacked together into an undeniable pattern. The sneaking out at 2 a.m. wasn't just a lapse. It was the culmination of months of deception. I didn't yell. I didn't demand explanations. I simply observed, my silence heavy, my presence a mirror of her own guilt. "Claire," I said softly, "this ends tonight. I need to know who, what, and why. There's no more hiding." Her breath hitched, a brief admission that she knew I had caught her at a point of no return. Finally, she spoke, voice low, defensive, and almost resigned. "It's complicated," she muttered. But I could see through the vague words. The details didn't matter yet. The fact that she felt cornered, the subtle panic behind her practiced anger. That was the confirmation I needed. I had already begun collecting evidence. Screenshots, timestamps, the faint hints of conversations that betrayed her intentions. Over the next few days, I observed her every move with precision. She tried to maintain normalcy, pretending our life had continued uninterrupted. But her actions betrayed her every time. The late-night phone checks, the hurried messages, the subtle attempts to mask her fear. They were all pieces of the puzzle I had been silently assembling. I made no immediate move to confront her again. Instead, I focused on preparation. My strategy was simple, calm, meticulous, and undeniable. Every lie, every sneaky step, every hidden action would be documented. Claire thought she had the advantage. But patience and clarity were now my allies. And I intended to let reality do the work before taking the final step. A week later, the confrontation returned. But this time, it was different. I didn't approach Claire with anger, nor did I demand answers in a storm of accusations. I called her into the living room, sitting across from her with calm resolve. She had been expecting confrontation, a meltdown, tears, maybe even threats. But what she faced was something far more unnerving. Composure, clarity, and quiet determination. "Claire," I said evenly, "I know what you've been doing. I know about the nights, the calls, and the secrets. I've been documenting everything. There's no room to lie, no way to hide. This ends now." Her face drained of color. The arrogance, the confidence she had wielded so effortlessly in her deception, melted into panic. Her eyes flicked to the evidence I had silently collected, the screenshots and notes that mapped her actions over weeks. For the first time, she realized that she was no longer in control. She tried to speak, to twist the story, to claim misunderstandings, but I didn't allow it. I listened once, then shook my head. "The truth is clear," I said. "And the consequences are inevitable. This isn't about anger, it's about reality. You cannot manipulate what is documented and undeniable." The days that followed were methodical. I filed for divorce with clear evidence, ensuring the process could not be undermined by charm or deception. I secured assets, transferred accounts, and made sure that my professional and personal life remained protected. I wasn't acting out of vengeance. I was acting from clarity and a sense of justice. The betrayal had been painful, yes, but it had also been illuminating. It showed me exactly where my boundaries had been crossed. And it showed me how to reclaim control with dignity. Claire's world began to unravel quietly but unmistakably. The smugness that had once defined her demeanor vanished. Friends who had once been allies now saw her duplicity for what it was. Mark disappeared from our lives entirely, leaving only the consequences of their choices behind. My silence, calm observation, and preparation had done what confrontation alone could not. It exposed reality in its purest form. Finally, the divorce was finalized. The assets were divided fairly, the house remained secure, and the business, my legacy, remained intact. Claire left with disbelief etched across her face, realizing that her manipulations had failed. And I walked out with a sense of calm empowerment, a quiet victory that didn't require shouting or dramatics, only patience, strategy, and clarity. Sitting alone that night, reflecting on the ordeal, I understood something profoundly simple yet transformative. Betrayal can test you, shake you to your core, and leave scars, but it can also reveal the strength you never realized you had. By remaining composed, observant, and methodical, I had turned a moment of immense personal violation into a testament of resilience. Claire had believed she could deceive and manipulate without consequence. Reality, however, had a way of catching up. And as I looked out at the quiet night, I felt it. Life can betray you, people can betray you, but your clarity, patience, and strategy will always guide you to emerge stronger, wiser, and unbroken.